evening and welcome to the January 24th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast by FCTV on cable channel 9. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. We have a full complement of commissioners tonight. Thank you all for your dedication. I'd like to remind you guys that for commenting, I'll call on each of you in turn, so let's not trip over each other. Also, that all votes are done by roll call. When I call your name, state your name and your vote for the record, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. If you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the act and/or the bylaw do not apply. Therefore, the project may proceed as proposed. However, a positive determination means that the provisions of the act and/or the bylaw may in fact apply and/or may require some conditions. Therefore, that project would require a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, to keep things simple, you kind of want to hear a negative determination. Now, this is where it's going to get confusing. Pay attention. We're going to go into executive session. So this meeting was probably one of our shortest on record. We are going to leave, we're going to vote to leave this meeting and go into executive session. We will be back for the public hearing part of the meeting after the executive session. The purpose of the executive session is to discuss strategy with respect to imminent litigation as per Mass General Laws 30A, Section 21A3. So I'm looking for a motion and a second to go into executive session.
Bird moves to go into executive session.
O'Brien second.
Thank you.
Do
We
we
have a
want to
motion
add,
and
Jamie, do we want to add to the motion that after executive session is over, we'll go back into this meeting?
I think I said that.
Well, it's
Yeah.
to go into
So the
executive
motion and second
session.
is to go into executive session. We'll discuss what we're going to discuss. Then we'll have a motion and a second and a vote to come back into a regular meeting.
Right.
Okay, kind of what I said, except I had the short version. All right, we have a motion and a second. We're voting to go into executive session. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
All right, it is unanimous. We are going into executive session. So we'll be leaving this meeting, going into a different one. Then we'll come back. So we are officially back in session, in a regular session. I already read all the legalese. I'm not going to bore you with it again. So we're going to move forward. First up is vote minutes, January 4, 2024. Anyone?
Steve, you're on mute.
I reviewed the minutes. I'd make a motion to approve. Patton.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted for January 4. Questions or comments? We're voting to accept the minutes. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
Thank you. It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes of January 4. Next up is vote minutes of January 10, 2024. Anyone?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 11th.
Bird second.
All right, questions or comments? All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted for January 10th. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes of January 10th. Thank you, Kristen. Next up are requests for determination of applicability. First up, Town of Falmouth Engineering Department, Sippowiset Road, across from 112 Sippowiset Road, West Falmouth, Mass, for permission to extend the existing guardrail. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird
So
so
moved,
moved.
Carla Hawks.
Did you need a second? I'll second it.
yeah, we had multiple motions and no second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Gene Talbert and Eric Davidson, 68 Patty Road, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconstruct retaining walls and to replace existing walkways and steps. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird so move.
Carla Hawks Eye.
O'Brien, second.
all right, we have a motion and multiple seconds to accept staff's recommendation.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, the applicant has their hand raised. I do believe they want to address the board. I may be able to clarify something, Mr. Davidson. If you heard a negative, that means you can move forward with the project. If you'd still like to address the board, I will promote you as a panelist. If you don't, you no longer need to address the board. Yes, sir, you're fine. You are good to go with your project. He
All
lowered
right.
his hand, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, again, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation of a -3 and a -2. Anything else? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, 14 Willis Lane Realty Trust, 14 Willis Lane, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, RAZE, an existing detached garage, construct an attached garage, reconfigure the driveway, construct a farmer's porch, and replace and enlarge the existing patio with a covered patio. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Carla Hawks so moved.
Gladfelter, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, John W. and Maura W. Letty, 105 Silver Beach Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, RAZE, the existing dwelling, construct a new dwelling, and remove the existing shed. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird so move.
Carla Hawks second.
this is solely in a flood zone.
Part of it is in a zone B buffer to a wetland, but all of the construction is barely in that 100-foot.
Thank you for clarifying. All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Wildfire aye.
Courtney,
Stewart, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Thank you for all that, Alyssa. Next up are requests for hearing under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. And as a reminder for public commenting, it is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. Chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Pincinel Builders, 362 Ecopesket Road, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, R-A-Z-E, and reconstruct a cabana. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Mike Porcelli of Falmouth Engineering up to promote his project. Good evening, Mike.
Hello, Jen.
and
Hello.
Mike, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant. I'm also joined by Chris Harris. He's the architect. He should be in the audience and should be impaneled in case there's questions about the construction and the design of the reconstructed cabana.
Mike, would that be Salt Architecture?
Yes,
Okay, I'll promote him to a panelist.
thank you. Mr. Chairman, can I share my screen?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. The property in question is at number 362 Acapesket Road. This may be familiar to you folks because you reviewed this project and issued an order of conditions to allow the existing house to be raised and reconstructed. The project's actually underway and the house is under construction. I think it's just recently been weather tight and they're working on the interior work now. The site is stable. And the owner is now exploring and hoping to get permission to rebuild an existing cabana that is down towards the pond. I'm showing you the plan of the overall site. The house under construction is at the center. The lot has frontage on Green Pond, so the resources of note include land under the ocean, land containing shellfish. There is a small section of salt marsh along the shores of Green Pond. There is a non-eroding coastal bank, the top of which is shown with this rust-colored line. And the associated A and B zones to that bank are also on the plan. The property is also within a flood hazard zone, so it's land subject to coastal storm flowage. The blue line is the boundary. So the work we're proposing is within an AE15 flood zone. What I'm showing you here is the existing conditions. There's an existing concrete block supported structure with a deck system and a cabana with a roof deck. To give you a sense of what that structure looks like, you should be seeing a photo of the structure as it exists today. It has a concrete block foundation, timber decking, and then on top of that, there's a smaller building with the roof deck above. Here's a view from the side to give you a sense of where it is in the landform. You can see a dock in the background. It's an optical illusion. It's not on our property, but it sort of looks like it is. And here's a view from the other direction. I apologize for the shading, but it shows the condition of the block wall and the decking. And this bank is, this is all ivy covered bank. There's a small oak tree here, and that was referenced in the staff report. And I'll get to that in a minute. I'll go back to the plan. So this shows the outline of all the existing conditions of the structure in the decking. This now is showing the proposed reconstructed cabana with the existing outline in red for reference. As part of the reconstruction effort, we're shifting the new structure back slightly further from the salt marsh, and we're shifting it slightly further away from the property line. But it's all within the same disturbed area. This new cabana will have a deck elevation of 4, and it'll have the same type of structure on that deck. And it'll have a roof deck as well. These are the stairs that would lead up to the roof deck. This structure is designed to be pile supported with helical pilings. The existing retaining wall that retains the existing building would be rebuilt in effectively the same position, shifted ever so slightly landward. There is one sink for like a rinsing sink that would be within the cabana, and that would be drained to a dry well that we're showing here. There is a limit of work shown on the plan running along the property line and then around the salt marsh. All construction access is from the upland. There'll be no access from the pond side. The area where this is all proposed is previously altered coastal bank, and there's no natural vegetation to speak of in and around this area, which I think is evident from the photos. Making reference to the staff report, there was a question about what the little circles mean on the plan. Those are the helical pilings. And Chris Harris is here to speak to that if you have questions. There was also a question that if this is a power supported structure, could we please submit the architectural plans? We can certainly submit the architectural plans. Since it was an AE zone and not a velocity zone, we didn't think it was a requirement for you to see those, but we're happy to provide those. There's a question about the limit of work. As it is shown on the plan with in this location, and there was a question about natural vegetation. There is no natural vegetation that will be disturbed as part of this project. There's also a question about a small tree, and that's the small oak tree that I referenced, I believe, in this photo. And there's a suggestion that we should replace that with another tree. And we can find a spot to put an oak tree as is suggested on the site. And the final comment was about, in the staff report, there's a photo that shows like a water line coming out of the cabana, and that raised the question about will there be water and electricity to this? The answer is yes. There would be electricity proposed in a water service for that one rinsing sink that would be in here. I can add those 2 utility lines to the plan, but the idea is to run from the existing house over the buffer and the land between the house and the cabana, which is all slated, by the way, to be restored with mitigation planting that was part of the approval for the house. And I think that sums it up, unless Chris wants to add anything. Otherwise, we're both here to answer questions.
Thanks, Mike. Chris, do you have anything to add at this point? All righty. Jen,
Yes, one point that was not raised in the staff report, Mike, and I was just thinking about it when I was looking at your plan again. When you're shifting the cabana south, I guess, the area where you're shifting it to the north side of it, how are you gonna stabilize that? Just gonna be like bare dirt.
Oh, that'll be, I think I'm gonna share my screen again to make sure I'm clear on your question.
Yeah.
I think, we're shifting.
little
this
area,
direction, so this area will now become exposed. We can plant that with native plantings to stabilize it. That would be
Okay,
definitely.
perfect. Like we'll just put a small amount of jute matting and some shrubs to stabilize. Okay,
Yes.
all right, I'll put that as a note. Thanks, Mike. That's all I had.
Mrs.
I'm all good.
Bergeron,
Jen, did you have something else?
No, I was gonna
Okay.
say that.
I have no comments. Thank you.
all right. All right, commissioner comments. Courtney,
No comments.
all right. Mike, you said there's gonna be a dry well to support that rinsing sink.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask for a condition to be put in that there's no draining out into that pond.
Absolutely.
Just so you know, I did listen to you, but I want to make sure that's in there because, I mean, it's draining now out there. Well, nothing's probably draining now, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, new water and electric lines. Okay, thank you. Kevin,
No comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Maury?
Just a couple of questions, Mike. So there's no gutters, so there's no dry wells?
Well, Chris can speak to this, but the dry well that we showed on the plan was gonna be dedicated to the, and I'll show it again. To any roof drainage and that small sink. So we did show a dry well. But is there more specifics maybe that we want to comment on, Chris, on the roof?
Yeah, so the idea was that we would drain pitch the roof to the landward side. There'd be a gutter along that face of the building, and then that's tied to the dry well. The downspouts would be tied to the dry well.
Okay, thank you. The other thing, the 18-inch oak that's behind there, could that have orange construction fence just to protect it?
Absolutely, yeah.
And you don't show where the water, and is there electricity in there?
Yeah, I did not show a water or electric service, but I'm happy to submit a plan that shows those. They'll come from the existing house to the cabana.
Okay, and is it a seasonal water line?
It would be seasonal, yes.
Okay, all right, so it will be a shallow dig. Okay, not a
Yep.
problem. And then the last thing, both of these structures will be raised, am I correct? At some point, the front and now this one? The one you've already worked on, that we permitted. And this one, you're gonna tear this all down, correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I just wanna, because now they're both have been removed off the property, the grandfathering for rebedding is not allowed, am I correct, Jen? Because they're no longer grandfathered, they're new structures. We used to put that in all the time when they would raise.
That's a gray area according to DEP, but I'd be happy to put it in under your bylaw if you'd like me to.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I don't know how DEP would feel about that, but I'd be happy to put it in a special condition.
We used to do it. I've been slipping up lately, so,
Okay.
okay, thank you. That's all. It's gonna be pretty much nicer than what's there.
Yeah.
It's a cool
Unique.
little structure.
All right, Steve.
Sometimes you review a project and you think they should have had a view to the ocean or something. I knew this was coming. And I think you did a nice job on it, and it's just sitting back on the same spot it was in, so perfect.
Thank you.
Betsy.
No question.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat regarding this project, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
And make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right. Bear with me. All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thanks.
Have a good evening.
Are you gone, Mike?
All right, next up. Continued requests for hearing under a notice of intent. First up, Mary and Susan Johnston, 153 Seapit Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct a walkway and to install coir fiber rolls. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I promoted Mark Dibb up, but now Raoul's raising his hand. Raoul, put
fight
his
over
hand
it.
down. See, I'm watching you, Raoul. Hi, Mike. Mark, you made it.
Yes, I did. I just sat down.
All right, Mr. Dibb, you're up, sir.
Hi, good evening, Mark Dibb. And just Raul was not sure if I had made it, so that's why he
Yep,
raised his
I
hand.
understand.
Okay. Good evening, Mark Dibb with Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the Johnstons at 153 Sea Pit Road in Falmouth. With your permission, I'm going to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so an overall review, the project is an existing single-family dwelling, Child's River to the west, Sea Pit Road to the right, and two existing residential properties, the north and south. The resource areas at the site are Child's River with land under ocean, land containing shellfish, and land under ocean of a fish run. As well as there's a salt marsh and a coastal bank at the property. So the proposal tonight has three main components. One is there is an area of erosion of the coastal bank. It varies, that the vertical amount of erosion varies from about 6 inches to a couple feet, and it's basically shaped like this, and if you're out there, you'll see it. It's just an eroding bank that we're proposing to stabilize with a coir log installation. So the coir logs will be installed. Native grasses will be installed along with them. And, you know, it's a common soft solution installation to repair that or to stabilize that existing eroding bank. So that's what this portion of the project is. And the second part of the project, there's an existing concrete walk that has been used by the owners of the property for kayak access to the water. It's an existing walk. It is broke where the erosion has occurred. It has broken off. So two things. We're proposing to remove that concrete for the project, and then to build a small, slightly raised walkway. And I say slightly because we are proposing graded decking, but the entire length of this walkway is only 10 feet long, and then with two sloping ramps, and just because of the age of the users of the house and things like that, they're just trying to maintain this access that they've had, while we also feel by stabilizing the bank and providing this walkway is a safer means, as well as it'll provide light under the walkway and allow areas that were concrete before and would now be potentially be able to regrow. The walkway itself would trigger is an additional 22 square feet. We've provided a mitigation area. We understand staff might recommend or during construction, we might have a different place for a proposed tree. But the applicant is just trying to continue to be able to get to the water safely, and to also try to stabilize the erosion on the property. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Stop sharing.
Thanks, Mark. Jen,
Yes, Mark, did you address the patio issue in the staff report? Can you address that? I may have missed it when you said it.
Patio.
There was am I reading the right one?
I don't think so.
Oh, I want the other one. Sorry, I was looking at a different staff report, reading it. This one. I don't know. I'm struggling with the walkway. That's all I can say. The core fiber roll. Do you know who would be doing the installation, Mark?
I do not know yet. We'd be happy to have a pre-construction meeting condition,
Okay.
or even a submittal of some kind of protocol by an installer prior to starting construction. But we
Okay.
do not have a specific installer
Yeah.
yet.
And like I said, okay, so that will have to be it. And then again, I'm just struggling with the walkway. It's dancing awfully close to kind of like a landward dock issue, access to the water. So I'm struggling with that. I know there were some DMF comments that they encouraged the removal of that pavement in the salt marsh, but again, I think DMF had concerns with this walkway being so low right across the marsh. I mean, I think you're going over the core fiber rolls in that area. But I mean,
Yeah.
you're going right up against the marsh. How wide is the marsh in that area? If you're stopping it right at the landward edge of the marsh, Mark.
The marsh varies from anywhere from a foot to 4 or 5 feet. I do know there is a piece of the broken concrete, like in that interface of mean high, marsh, upland. That'll be removed, and I mean they could use that area as their access. There wouldn't be any marsh under the footprint of the existing concrete. Yeah, it's to again the change in elevation of the bank that's eroding is at max about 2 feet. So we're just trying to with as little impact as possible provide a safe way that to kind of replace that existing walkway that has broken off. Be happy to hear other commissioner comments.
Wait, I have more comments, Mark. You don't want to hear more comments? No, I mean, I would have concerns like you take that off and then the marsh isn't able to come back because they're dragging that kayak back and forth. So, I mean, the commission heard our concerns. We're struggling with recommending approval for that walkway. Usually, like in the area of the salt marsh, it would be raised up to allow the proper light penetration and all of that from DMF, and we're just not seeing that in this case. So that's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Ms. Bergeron, before you start, I just want to clarify the quorum is all of us because it hasn't been opened yet, even though it's a continued hearing.
Mhm.
So, Ms.
And I have no
Bergeron.
comments.
Oh, sure. All right. Commissioner comments. I'm going to start with Kevin.
Other than I'm a little uneasy given staff's concerns, but no specific comments. Thank you.
All right. Maury.
Isn't this an expansion in an A zone, Jen? I mean, they're doubling the size of the walkway.
Yeah.
And I have concerns with the walkway expansion as well. And did I see any mitigation if we did approve it, that there's an increase?
Yeah, they put mitigation in.
Okay, I saw the old plan and I was trying to separate it from the new one. Thank you. That's all.
All right. Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm still looking at the walkway, but I really don't think I have that much of a problem with it, but thank you.
Betsy.
Maury could have taken the words right out of my mouth. When I saw this, I said, isn't this an expansion in the A zone?
All right, Courtney.
Was this walkway ever permitted? What's the origin of it?
I do not believe the town has record of it being permitted. It's been there for a long time as well.
I mean, what's a long time?
I can try to figure something out while you continue.
Courtney, we couldn't find any record of it.
Does it show in the old aerials, Jen?
Alyssa, could you remember seeing it in any old aerials?
It does. It's just been a while since I've looked at it. I'll look at GIS real quick.
Let me go into GIS.
Looks like it's there in 75.
Yeah,
The little concrete strip.
Yeah. I can see it. I can see something in the 90s.
Whether it's concrete in 75, I don't know, but that strip has been there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, anything else, Courtney?
No, I was just curious as to when it, I mean, does it predate 1979? I guess is my question.
Like I said, like Alyssa said, Courtney, we can see an outline of a very long linear strip in the 75 aerials, whether or not it was shell, gravel, pavement, we can't tell, but there was some access way in that area.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. I mean, if it's something that was pre-1979 and it's not representing an expansion, the question is it, can it be drawn properly to meet as many of our concerns as we have now?
All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the chat, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So it
Mark?
seems like the outstanding issue is the potential expansion. Mark?
Would I be able to show a couple pictures? Could I just
Sure.
be okay? Let's just share my screen one more time, just to, I don't know if everybody got a chance to visit the site. So this is looking along, you'll see on the plan, there's also a retaining wall. So the retaining wall is here. This is the erosion on this side. You'll see that the walkway just literally broke off and fell in. You know, we had kicked around, you know, just fixing the walkway, maybe put a couple stairs in this area. You know, that we felt that this walkway right now, the one we proposed, you know, with graded decking, would be an improvement. We do have it proposed at 4 feet wide. The existing concrete is 2 feet wide. And we have shown mitigation for that expansion, but, you know, I don't know if the board, if a 3 foot wide walk would be okay, which would still be an expansion, but maybe not, considering there was we're actually removing extra length on both ends of the walkway. But you know, we're just trying to give the owner some continued access that they've had for a very long time. So you know, we'd even you know, input more ideas, but you know, we did definitely kick around just replacing the concrete, fixing it. But how do you know, have that core log installation as well to fix the destabilizing bank or eroding bank? So just wanted to share that that picture.
Thank you. Betsy?
So where are you, Mark? So Mark, what's the total square footage of the current concrete walkway?
The current I'll go back, if you don't mind, I'll go back to the plan one more time. Those areas are on the plan. So the total square footage of the existing concrete walkway is 63 square feet. And the proposed, the walkway with the 2 ramps that, you know, get back down to grade, is 85 feet for an increase of 22 square feet. And we were providing the 66 square foot, a 3-to-1 mitigation for that increase.
So could you, so I would be comfortable if you replace the concrete walkway with your new walkway, but the same square footage. So it can't be a 4 foot walkway. Maybe it could be a 3 foot walkway.
Okay, we can look at that. I think that would work. It's 10 feet, 22. It's exactly, if we reduce it by 1 foot in width over 22 length, that's 22 square feet. I think that would, you know, make it exactly the same footprint as existing.
And then technically it wouldn't be an expansion, since we're splitting hairs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little rearrangement, but it's the same
Yeah.
square footage there.
Right. Jen?
Mark, when I'm scaling off your site detail plan, and I'm going from your piling to the end of I'm assuming that's the ramp, I get 5 feet, but then on your walkway profile, you have the ramp as 6 feet. Is it 5 or 6 feet? Using just a regular scale.
It is supposed to be 6 feet. We're also avoiding the salt marsh with those ramps. So if it's
Are
supposed to be,
you, are you avoiding the salt marsh altogether? Or are you going over the salt marsh?
we are stopping short of the salt marsh.
How short?
Uh, short of our flagging, literally, a foot. Yeah, 'cause right now the existing concrete is approximately 2 or 3 feet into that salt marsh line. So we would be stopping roughly about a foot short of the salt marsh. But I can,
Okay, so like I said, when I'm scaling off the site plan detail with scale. I get 5 feet, and then your walkway profile is 6 feet. So,
I think we've heard some suggestions. We can just coordinate the plan. We can come back to another meeting with an updated plan, or if it's something that as long as there's no increase, if we can move either way, if we can move it forward, if you'd like to see that revised plan to make a decision by the board, we'd be happy to accommodate either one.
I definitely want to see a revised plan.
Yeah.
so Mark, if you were to come back with a revised plan.
Is it minor enough if we could get it back in by Friday to get to the next one? It's not your standard timeframes, or I think we can
No,
also
because
live
I'd
with the
still like
following.
to look at it, Mark.
Okay, we'll just get it back in for the next available meeting according to your typical deadline submittal. So I think if there's no more questions, I would just request a continuance to the 14th, I believe is the next one we could meet a deadline for a resubmittal.
All right, hold that thought. Maury, did you have your hand up?
Yeah. I mean, I guess when I see a project like this, and we've seen them in the past, and to me, it's just looking more like a dock than a walk. And it really does concern me because if it's a dock, then call it a dock. But right now they're trying to say it's a walk. Concrete flush to the ground is a walkway. This is a boardwalk, so to speak, but it's still a walk. It's still making the appearance of a dock. And I'm struggling with it. And I definitely don't want to see any increase. Other than that, that's all. I'm sorry to hold it up, but thank you.
Ms. Bergeron.
Just a quick question as I'm looking this. So the ramp that goes toward the water, it's just going to be sitting on the ground. You're right at the edge of the marsh, and with no grass in one of those areas, when the concrete comes up, if the site continues to erode, that ramp could just be overhanging or in the water at some point. Is it prudent to put some kind of posts at the end of the ramp?
And now it's really looking like a dock.
It's a real dock. Yeah.
To get in the way.
You know what I mean? Like if the site is facing erosion and continues to erode, you're just going to have part of the ramp in the water. It's so close.
Yeah, we could add posts, and again, we're just trying to stabilize the bank but continue to be able to have a 30-inch path or 24-inch path. If fixing the concrete, that I think that could be an approvable option as well, because it has been there for a long time. We'd be happy to do that. I think it's just the intention is to be able to not have to the owners of the age where they wouldn't want to be climbing down core logs. They want to just be able to continue having a path in this area. So we'll revise to a no increase. We'll add some posts.
How about just stairs, Mark? Stairs over the core fiber. Look
We
at
could look at
stairs
that.
again.
We could look at that.
Look at stairs again.
We'll have some time, so we can look at that.
We have a
All right,
date, Jen?
Yeah, you have 5 new notices on the 14th, but no continueds as of yet, so I think we could accommodate this on the 14th.
Does that work for you, Mark?
Yes, it does.
So I'll make a motion to at the request of the applicant to continue this to, are we into February?
Yeah.
Yeah.
February 14th.
Bird
Valentine's.
second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until February 14th. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until February 14th. Thanks,
you.
Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Good night.
Next up, 3 Tonsett Road Realty Trust, 3 Tonsett Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to repair an existing septic system. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have just promoted Jeff Hassett up of Morse Engineering Company to present his project. Good evening, Jeff.
Good evening, thank you. Again, my name is Jeff Hassett. I'm a civil engineer with Morse Engineering. And if you could promote Paul Gallagher as well, he's the applicant's general contractor.
Absolutely. I am promoting a Mr. Gallagher.
All right.
And Jeff, okay, perfect. You have your plan.
Yep. All right. So this is an NOI application for a septic repair at 3 Tonsett Road. The property is about 12,000 square feet in size. It has frontage on Catuit Road to the south and Tonsett Road to the west. And it's developed with a single family home that was built in 1977. It has an attached 2-car garage and a paved driveway, and then lawn and landscape areas throughout. The resource areas are primarily on the opposite side of Tonsett Road. There's a coastal beach and then also a man-made riprap embankment, which the top would be a man-made top of coastal bank. So you have a top of coastal bank on the other side of Tonsett Road. The 50-foot zone A is shown here, and the 100-foot zone B is here. So that is the majority of the property is within the 100-foot buffer zone. And then the entire property is mapped as a land subject to coastal storm flowage. So the work we're proposing is currently they have a failed septic system made up of 2 leaching pits located here. They will be pumped and filled. And then we're proposing a new septic system. It's a Title V compliance system. It's a 1,500-gallon septic tank flowing by gravity to a distribution box, and then a chamber leaching field. The tank is 97 feet from the coastal bank, and the field is 105 feet. So it's at the furthest possible location away from the resource areas. We did receive a staff memo notifying us that there's an outstanding order of conditions on the property from 2016, and there's some work on that was not completed. It required 2 mitigation areas, one here and one here. They did plant the areas, but they aren't quite as big as they need to be based on our current survey. So I've hatched the areas where the mitigation areas need to be expanded in accordance with that outstanding order of conditions. And then they were also required to remove a 50-square-foot portion of the existing deck. That has not been completed. I've spoken to Paul Gallagher, who's going to be doing interior renovations on this home. If he hasn't applied for the building permit, it will be in the next week or so. And the intent is that portion of the deck will be removed at that time. But we've noted it on this plan, so it cannot be overlooked. And then the last thing noted on the staff report is that a shed appeared on this property in 2019. That shed is important to the property owners. They would like to keep it if you as a commission can allow it. The only resource area that it's in is land subject to coastal storm flowage. That being said, it's at the same elevation as the house. It is in the 100-year floodplain, but it's very rare that this would see any flow that would cause any damage. And it's been there for 5 years. It hasn't seen any damage. So again, well, I'll defer that to you as a commission, but it is important to the homeowners if it can be permitted. And then overall, again, back to the septic system, again, it's as far away from the wetland as possible. And it should be an overall improvement, being replacing a failed leaching pit with a Title V compliant system. And I'll pass it back to you. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Jeff, you can stop sharing, please.
Okay.
Thanks. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. First of all, the shed's in a velocity zone, just to be clear. So I know the board has strong feelings about sheds and velocity zones. And there is a garage on the property. Unlike some of the other velocity zone projects we've seen that you've allowed a little bit of storage. This one does have a garage. The portion of the deck was, correct me if I'm wrong, Alyssa, that portion of the deck was required to be removed so they could expand in the velocity zone on a different area of that deck. So it was important that that deck be removed. So now we have the additional deck in the velocity zone and now the shed. So those are concerns of the staff in accordance with your regulations. I have no problem with the septic system, but the board may want to condition something that prior to the installation of the septic system, the outstanding issues within the velocity zone be addressed. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. Yes, just to add on to Jen's point, the outstanding order was to construct a deck expansion in which they were allowed to increase by that 200 square foot allowance of structure in a velocity zone prior to, moving the structure up on pilings. So that small portion of the deck was credit towards that 200. So that bite of the apple has been taken on this property. And the shed is located in the velocity zone, not the Falmouth velocity zone, but the actual velocity zone. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments, Maury.
I would just recommend that maybe we put in the order that the part of the deck and the shed be removed in a time, put a time frame on it, maybe prior to the upgrade to the septic. And that way there might be some expedient removal to get the septic upgraded. Because this has been just hanging on, and I just don't want it to fall through the cracks again. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Steve.
Thank you. Having not being aware of the other conditions, I just evaluated the septic and found it to be a much better solution to the existing. But I am listening to this other discussion, although unfamiliar with those concerns. Thank you.
Betsy.
I agree with Moore's analysis.
Courtney.
Why aren't you considering a D-night system in this situation?
It is a fully compliant Title V system.
Well, I understand that, but
it has been
we're
approved by
also
the board.
faced with new regulations coming down the road that are going to require, the septic systems within 100 feet are denitrifying.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. The leaching field is 105 feet away. But I wasn't aware of that, the changes coming up.
Changes have been made to Title V. Yeah, they're already in effect.
Okay. Well, the leaching field is outside of the 100-foot.
It's not 100 foot. It's not just the 100 foot. It's in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's in any nitrogen impaired
Sensitive
watershed.
waters.
So can you confirm, Mr. House, that if this area is a nitrogen impaired, if it falls within one of those nitrogen impaired watersheds in Falmouth?
I'm not sure. Could we defer that to the Board of Health? That would be a Title V requirement.
Yeah. Okay, just so you're,
help
I
you.
think what Commissioner Byrd is trying to say is, you know, these regulations are in effect if you're out, if your client is within, and I can't tell from our GIS right now, where the Wild Harbor River watershed is. I do believe the Wild Harbor River is an impaired watershed. That your client just be made aware that these regulations are in effect and they could potentially be required to put a D-night system in at some point in the future. So it might be
Some point in
something
the
you'd
future,
like
okay.
to check with, you know, check which watershed they're in and to have that conversation with your client to make sure they understand the ramifications of putting in a conventional Title V in right now and what they may or may not, depending on whether or not they're in one of these impaired watersheds, what they may or may not have to do in the future.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'll do some research on it tomorrow and speak to the client about it.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Courtney, you good?
yeah, so I mean, because these regulations are in flux, but what they were proposed is that, you know, within 5 years, you have to upgrade to a D-night system if you're in a resource area.
Yeah,
So-
so you're saying maybe it makes sense to put that tank in now.
So, you know, you should check that out because it seems like if you're gonna go and upgrade the system, you might as well go all in and make it compliant and not have to go through the expense and aggravation of having to do it again in 5 years.
It's a
Sure.
little bit more nuanced than that, Courtney, but yeah, I mean, there's there's considerations if the town does a watershed management plan in this area, so it's just something you really should be aware of and your client should be aware
Okay, and it likely wouldn't change, you know, that traditional 1,500 gallon septic tank would now be a denitrification tank instead with an electrical component.
of. Yeah, we've seen a lot of systems going in where they have the room to put that additional tank, or Maury, what did they do? They put an additional tank in?
Yeah, their fast systems and those are not gonna be compliant. They don't take out enough nitrogen. So, most of them are two tank system.
That could be an issue here because we're right at all the setbacks to the foundation, to the property lines is.
And if not, it's a nitro, which is a one chambered D-night system. And you might want to just look up nitro.
Nitro one chamber.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you are pretty tight in there.
Yeah, it's barely squeezes in there.
Kevin,
I think they have enough problems. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
come on, join the party. All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat regarding this project, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Gallagher, do you have anything you'd like to add at this point?
Oh, hi, everyone. Thank you. We'll definitely look into that and see if, certainly if we are, it would make sense, and see if Jeff can coordinate that upgraded system. But we will do some homework on it. But we appreciate that and your consideration, and we will certainly be taking out the square footage of the deck. That I came in only about 4 months ago, but I was made aware of just the deck portion of the issue. But anything we need to do, we're definitely want to be team players and move forward together.
Excellent.
Mr. Haas, do you want us to continue so you have the opportunity to consult with your client, review whether or not this is in a nitrogen impaired watershed? I just don't have that information at my fingertips right now. It's awfully close to the Wild Harbor River. That's why it's kind of concerning me. And then, you know, continue it, or would you like us to close the matter if the board's all set? And then if you have to come back with a D-night, amend?
Yeah, I think I would like to, if it's okay with the commission, close the hearing with the plan as it's designed currently. And if we have to come back with a denitrification system, we'll come back with a modification at that time.
Okay. You heard the board's concerns about the shed.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
Oh, excuse me, O'Brien and I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Steve?
And I,
It is unanimous. We have closed the hearing. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you,
All
gentlemen.
right, thank you very much.
Thank you very
Good
much.
night.
Good luck.
Next up, Eric Forsgard, 45 Owl's Nest Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, R-A-Z-E, an existing dwelling, construct a new dwelling with a deck, patios, and a rinse station, and to replace the existing sewage disposal system. And the quorum is all of us. Mr. Lizardi, welcome. You're up, sir.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant and this application, which was continued last week, and the board granted me to continue just 1 week to provide a revised plan. And if I could share my screen.
Yes, sir.
So the purpose for the revision was to include the mitigation plantings to compensate for what the original application showed, that the existing patio in the back of the house was existing but not permitted. So we are now showing mitigation. This view that we have right here is what we presented last week. And what we agreed to do was revise the plan to show the mitigation. So we have 2 areas of mitigation like it was discussed at last week's hearing, to compensate for the required mitigation based on the calculation. I did read the staff report, the new staff report, and there is a miscalculation on the table for mitigation where we show 50% of one species, 35% of another species, and 40% of another species. And that does not add up to 100 unless we plant some shrubs on top of each other. So the 40% was intended to be 15%. So that's a mistake on the plan. But the whole intent is to plant 100%. The species that were selected for these 2 areas are species that are tolerant to shading, because all of this site is practically all wooded. So most of the shrubs that were selected, which were huckleberry, sweet pepper bush, maple leaf arrowwood, mountain laurel, Osteria virginia, and serviceberry, are more conducive to this type of environment. Another comment from staff report, which we addressed at the original hearing, was the existing pier. The applicant agrees to remove the pier. We didn't note it on the plan, but he does agree to remove it. He is planning on a follow-up permit to permit a different pier, but the existing one is proposed to, he agrees to remove it. He also visited the site, and there was a comment last week regarding some stones that were stacked along the shores of the pond, and it resembled a tiny kind of groin or stone groin. He did notice them. I actually noticed them when I went to the site. It looks like over the years, people have just been stacking stones in the water. If the commission wants to condition those stones to be removed from the water, he said he's willing to do so in the warmer time, but it is something that it's been there for quite some time. So that's the revised plan. If there's any more questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thanks, Raul. That's Feng Shui, isn't it? Isn't that what they call that? Never mind. Jen,
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Bergeron,
No comments. Thank you.
Commissioner comments. Steve,
okay, do we need to have the pier removed in the plan? Other than that, I think it's fine with me.
We can
Or we-
condition that they put a revised plan in, Steve, with the note that the pier is going to be removed.
Thank you. Other than that, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
all right. Betsy,
Nor do I have questions.
Courtney,
Rule, do you have a quick picture of that rock there? Could you bring that up on your screen? Because it looked to me like the last hearing this, it looked like trap rock, which is designed to slow irrigation. It just wasn't random stone.
Um, let's see if I could get another question while I look for a picture for you. But it is not trap rock. These are actually like rounded field stones that you see all along
Well,
the
that's why I
shoreline.
wanted to take a quick look at it because it looked like trap rock to me.
Yeah, it's not trap rock. It's the picture I have actually. It's from a distance. I'm gonna try to share my screen again. But I don't know that I can actually zoom in that close to it.
I remember you had another one point. You had a view of it.
So these are the
Previous
rocks.
hearing.
These are the rocks over on the left,
Okay.
and they
Well,
stick.
I think the consensus is they got to go away. Right.
Yeah, so the applicant agreed that if the commission chooses to condition the removal of them, that he will remove them. He'll just wait for a warmer time because they do go like about 10 feet into the water.
Yeah. Okay. No other questions.
All right, Kevin.
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Maury.
I actually didn't have any problems with the rocks. I'm sure it's when they would go down to the pond and every time they'd trip on one, they'd throw it to the side. But that's in the findings. I mean, if somebody wants to make them take them out, I have no problem. That's all. Thank you.
I agree.
Could be considered a historic fence.
Oh, geez, here we go. All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Hello, Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Raul.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Night, Raul.
Night,
Good
Raoul.
night.
All right, next up is a request to extend an existing order of conditions. Town of Falmouth Marine and Environmental Services, 26 Takema Way, Takema, Walkway, Mass, DEP number 25-4601, requesting a 3-year extension. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the staff is recommending a 3-year extension because this is a town project. They are seeking grant funding and agency funding to help pay for the project. So it takes time to secure funding and then get the project completed. So I recommended that MES ask for that 3-year extension so they wouldn't have to keep coming back to us.
Bird so move.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, any questions or comments? All right, we're voting to approve a 3-year extension. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Hello, Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have granted a 3-year extension. Last motion, who wants it?
I'll move to adjourn.
Hello, Hawks
Pat,
second.
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye.
Hughes, aye.
O'Brien, aye.
Hello, Hawks Eye.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Night,
Good night,
everybody.
Good night, everyone.